winds coming forward. This is the word from which thy yearning shake.
Good morning. So we're reading in Book 10, the Book of the Double Twilight, Canto 2, the Gospel of Death. and the vanity of the ideal. We've come to page 612, towards the bottom at the new paragraph. Savitri is going to reply to Death's arguments. He has just been speaking about his view of the nature of love. On page 610, he said, just about 10 lines down, "What is this love thy thought has deified, this sacred legend and immortal myth? It is a conscious yearning of thy flesh. It is a glorious burning of thy nerves, a rose of dream splendor peddling thy mind, a great red rapture and torture of thy heart." So he's been arguing that love too arises out of the basis of matter and life's instincts. And then he described the nature of much of human love, how it begins very beautifully and feels like heaven and divine, but after some time its character changes and it grows more into a habit, or worse, of two egos striving in the same leash, tied together, unable to part, but unable to get along. Two strive, constant associates without joy, two egos straining in a single leash, two minds divided by their jarring thoughts, two spirits disjoined, forever separate. And then he says, "I, death, have saved you from this fate. If Satyavan would have lived, this would have been what would happen to your love. But I've rescued you from this and taken him into my peace and eternal calm." So he says for her, "Go back to your world. Forget Satyavan. New other people will come. But in the end, love and you and him all will die and come into my realm." So now Savitri replies to Death. And let's start at this side this time.
But Savitri replied to the dark power, "A dangerous music now thou find'st, O Death, melting thy speech into harmonious pain, and flood'st alluringly to tired hopes thy falsehoods, mingled with sad strains of truth. But I forbid thy voice to slay my soul. My love is not a hunger of the heart. My love is not a craving of the flesh. It came to me from God. To God returns. Even in all that life and man have marred, a whisper of divinity still is heard. A breath is felt from the eternal spheres, allowed by heaven and wonderful to man, a sweet fire rhythm of passion chants to love. There is a hope in its wild, infinite cry. It rings with callings from forgotten heights. And when its strains are hushed to high-winged souls in their empyrean, its burning breath survives beyond, the rapturous chorus of suns that flame forever pure in skies unseen. A voice of the eternal ecstasy.
Thank you. Let's pause there. So Savitri contradicts death, says that her love is not a hunger of the heart or a craving of the flesh. It came to me from God. To God returns. So she says that this love is divine in its origin. It comes from God and it returns to God. Ultimately, even the love that we feel for others goes to God. God is within them, accepts our love. Through that love, we move, travel towards God, connect more deeply with Him. And then she says that, yes, man has marred love. It takes a distorted, it means marked, destroyed, or, scratched. Damaged, you could say. So even in that form of love that mankind has, still there is some hint of the divinity within it. Still we can feel some breath from the eternal spheres. And this human love is allowed by heaven and wonderful to man. It's something that lightens up our human existence. A sweet fire rhythm of passion chants to love. So even its passion is a chant to the higher forms of love that come from the divine. And she says there is a hope in its wild, infinite cry. It rings with callings from forgotten heights. And then she says something interesting. And when its strains are hushed to high-winged souls in their empyrean, heavens, the heights of existence. So in the higher mind, these passions of love settle down, become quiet, but yet its burning breath survives beyond that passion that we feel in the lower members of our nature, in the vital. It too has a truth above, and in the highest heights, that passion burns the rapturous core of suns that flame forever pure in skies unseen. That intensity of love is there in its very nature. And when we rise above that calm, quiet silence of the higher mind and enter into the pure spirit, we find again, in a purified form, that intensity and passion of love. Mm. So we can continue, Helma.
One day I shall behold my great sweet world, put off the dire disguise of the gods, unveil from terror and disrobe from sin. A peace we shall draw near our mother's face. We shall cast our candid souls upon her lap. Then shall we clasp the ecstasy we chase. Then shall we shudder with the long-sought gold. Then shall we find heaven's unexpected strain. Not only is there hope for Godhead's pure, the violent and darkened deities leap down from the one breast in rage to find what the white gods had missed. They too are safe. A mother's eyes are on them, and her arms stretched out in love desire her rebel sons. One who came love and lover and beloved eternal, built himself a wondrous field and wove the measure of a marvelous dance.
Thank you. Let's pause. That first line is interesting because she speaks as the Divine Mother there. One day I shall behold my great sweet world. She hasn't often done that in her replies. And she says, then when I behold this great sweet world, it will put off the dire disguises of the gods, unveil from terror and disrobe from sin. When she beholds, takes into her arms this world, she will throw off these dark disguises, these perversions of love, and then appeased, we shall draw near our mother's face. Now she's identifying with her creatures. We shall cast our candid souls upon her lap. Then shall we clasp the ecstasy we chase. Then shall we shudder with the long-sought God. Then shall we find heaven's unexpected strain. So she's saying, then we will clasp this pure form of love in its intensity, in its ecstasy. And then she says, not only is there hope for Godhead's pure, even the violent and darkened deities leap down from the one breast in rage to find what the white gods had missed. They too are safe. Even the asuras that have left their oneness with the divine, have come into the darkness of the ignorance, and in their ego have striven against God, have marred his work, his purified forms of love, turned them to egoistic passion. Those gods too, those asuras also are safe. A mother's eyes are on them, and her arms, stretched out in love, desire her rebel sons. And then she gives kind of a view of what this existence is in relation to love. One who came, love and lover and beloved, eternal, built himself a wondrous field and wove the measures of a marvelous dance. This world in which we live has been created by the One, and he comes here as love and lover and beloved. And this is his field in which he expresses, can play out this love between beings and God, creating this marvelous dance of creation, of love. So let's continue. Yeah, these other gods who stayed, let's say, in the overmind realm, would not come down into the ignorance of life, down into the inconscient, like the Asuras have come down. They stayed above in the purity of their own realm, but staying there, they missed something also. Yeah. But they've missed this kind of play of life, of love in life. The Asuras have missed something too. I mean, they also perhaps miss that beauty of divine harmony that's there above. Okay, B.
There, in its circles and its magic turns, attracted, he arrives. Repelled, he flees. In the wild, devious promptings of his mind, he tastes the honey of tears and puts off joy, repenting, and has laughter and has wrath. And both are a broken music of the soul, which seeks out, reconciled, its heavenly rhyme. Ever he comes to us across the years, bearing a new, sweet face that is the old. His bliss laughs to us, or it calls concealed, like a far-heard, unseen, entrancing flute from moonlit branches in the throbbing woods, tempting our angry search and passionate pain. Disguised, the lover seeks and draws our souls. He named himself for me, Guru Satyavan, for we were man and woman from the first, the twin souls born from one undying fire. Did he not dawn on me the other stars?
Thank you. Let's pause there. It's an interesting view of our existence here, that it's all the one. All this multiplicity that we see, all these infinite number of beings, these different faces, these different lives, are all Him, that same one, in His different disguises. And He plays here. Attracting us in other forms of Himself. And in this ignorance where we don't recognize the one, we're identified with these separate disguises. We have this passion and this wrath and laughter, this play of emotions. Which are seeking out their reconciliation in a heavenly rhyme. And ever the one comes to us across the years, across lives, bearing a new sweet face. That is the old, the same being, the same one. And His bliss laughs to us, or it calls concealed, like a far-heard, unseen, entrancing flute from moonlit branches in the throbbing woods, tempting our angry search and passionate pain. An allusion to Krishna, the God of love, calling us with his flute. Disguised, the lover seeks and draws our souls. So then she says, he named himself for me, Guru Satyavan. For we were man and woman from the first, the twin souls born from one undying fire. She suggests that they were the first two that leapt out of the one for the play of love. Did he not dawn on me in other stars? They have always been attracted to each other, interacting through all time.
I think this word reconciled is quite important to reflect more what the process is, no? That would be one, and then also what is the meaning Guru Satyavan? What could be there?
Yeah, this reconciliation of the opposites, the opposite forms that love takes in the ignorance of love and wrath, laughter and tears. So we seek a reconciliation. We're working out through these opposites some harmony. Difficult to achieve harmony, but they are different strains of the music. And when they are reconciled, when we see how they can fit together, express complementary forms of the one love, then we'll have this higher creation here.
You feel very trying to bring together another what I would call them cosmic summary of how of his view of the dance, the music, because he starts with the people that are okay. We're going to see them cast their souls into the lap of the mother. That's how it starts. And he uses that line from the Vedas. Often, I've seen it a few times, in my mind, where he says, in the lap of the mother, the soul sees. So those are the souls that see, but then he talks about the rebel sons, the ones that don't see, but they're going to see too. So then he keeps wrapping it up, but then he goes back to the very fundamental principle of the so-called he and she, which Savitri is saying is me and Satyavan. But of course, these are the eternal principles of love, and that's the divine himself, herself, dividing, but coming back, but bringing all the other parts of that one back together. So this dynamic, he really interestingly pulls it all together in just these, just this part. So we get that overview in a way that is amazing.
Yeah, it all brings it back to that essence of love being, at the base of the creation, at the very purpose of this creation, to experience this multifaceted form of love and delight. And there was this fall into the ignorance, into the darkness, as you say, which was perhaps necessary for that whole process to unfold, at least in the way that it is, struggling upwards in those dualities of love and hate and light and darkness and truth and falsehood.
Isn't it so, how do you say, spectacular that Savitri says, basically, God grew Satyavan for me. So he could experience what?
The same way, he named himself for me, Guru Satyavan, that the divine presence which has grown into the psychic being as the soul of man.
Oh.
I mean, as it grew because it has evolved as Satyavan on earth, and then it seeks.
Yeah, you're bringing in the idea that Satyavan represents the soul of humanity. Yeah, the psychic being. Disguise the lover seeks and draws our souls.
But the way of the duality is so intense that we have to get it back into non-duality. So that's the play. The play is involves life and all the rest of it. Which
Yeah, and
most people is partly negative.
yeah. But part of that story of this descent into the darkness and the rise through the disguises of love towards reunification also involves the descent of the avatar, of the divine being and the divine mother, to reconcile that disharmony.
It's our decision. You see, we go into the darkness when we're born. And the avatars are us.
Well, I don't know.
So to speak. There's only one.
There's only just one being, correct? Yeah. But where she speaks of, we were man and woman from the first, the twin souls born from the one undying fire. It kind of, to me, suggests something special about them. But
see, there is no them. That's a fiction. There's only us.
there's only him.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we continue? What about Nitya? Did you read? No. How has he, through the thickets of the world?
How has he, through the thickets of the world, pursued me like a lion in the night, and come upon me suddenly in the ways, and seized me with his glorious golden leap. Unsatisfied, he yearned for me through time, sometimes with wrath and sometimes with sweet peace, desiring me since first the world began. He rose like a wild wave out of the floods, and dragged me helpless into seas of bliss. Out of my curtained past, his arms arrive. They have touched me like the soft, persuading wind. They have plucked me like a glad and trembling flower, and clasped me happily, burnt in ruthless flame. I too have found him charmed in lovely forms, and run delighted to his distant voice, and pressed to him past many dreadful bars. If there is a yet happier, greater God, let him first wear the face of Satyavan, and let his soul be one with him I love. So let him seek me that I may desire.
Thank you. Let's pause. For the divine, ultimately. But all he knows is nature. All he knows are the forms around. But he's seeking for that oneness, that delight in nature. That,
Going both ways here.
yeah. Yeah.
I'm seeking her and she's seeking me.
Yeah, she says that next. I also. Yes. That's very beautiful. But that's the whole Again, that purpose of this creation, this play of the soul and nature. The soul and nature again being kind of that original duality coming out of the one.
And these are all arguments he's using against death to get over his claim.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the end, she's saying, if there's somebody better than Satyavan, I want him. So death has no way out. What do you keep him?
So, yeah, then she says, I too have found him charmed in lovely forms and run delighted to his distant voice and pressed to him past many dreadful bars. Nature too seeks for its soul, for its essence, its purpose of existence.
What does past many dreadful bars mean?
Yeah, nature is unfolding over time through the evolution. And as it develops, it also has to press over many obstacles. And even what would seem insuperable obstacles, from matter, inanimate matter, to life, from life forms, instinctual life forms, to mind. She has pressed through all of those obstacles, seeking for her own fulfillment in God.
And it's she as a nature.
Yes. Okay, we can continue. I don't know. For only one heart.
Yeah. For only one heart beats within my breast, and one God sits there throned. Advance, O death, beyond the phantom beauty of this world, for of its citizens I'm not one. I cherish God the fire, not God the dream. But death once more inflicted on her heart the majesty of his calm and dreadful voice. A bright hallucination are thy thoughts, a prisoner haled by a spiritual cord, of thy own sensuous will the ardent slave. Thou sendest eagle-poised to meet the sun, words winged with the red splendor of thy heart. But knowledge dwells not in thy passionate heart. The heart's words fall back unheard from wisdom's throne. Vain is thy longing to build heaven on earth. Art the fisher of ideal and idea, mind, child of matter in the womb of life, to higher levels persuades his parents' steps. Inept they follow, ill the daring guide. But mind, a glorious traveler in the sky, walks lamely on the earth with footsteps slow. Hardly he can mold the life's rebellious stuff. Hardly can he hold the galloping hoofs of sense. His thoughts look straight into the very heavens. They draw their gold from a celestial mind. His acts work painfully a common ore.
Thank you. Let's pause.
Be a greater God? Let him first let his soul be one with him I love. So that means when there's another God or another man, to be one with him I love. That is Satyavan, or the divine. Ne? And this, I think, is quite an interesting psychological, expression.
How so?
Yeah. When he thinks there's a greater God, but when it comes in union with oneness, I feel it, yeah. Because when his soul from the greater God be one with the oneness, no? That is a process she asked for. No?
Yeah, we could perhaps think of it as, is there a happier God in heaven? But let him come down into the earth like Satyavan, into the soul of humanity, and be one with him, my love. So nature, is in love with the soul that has descended into nature, was born with nature, not the transcendent God above who sits happily in his heaven. So for her, only one God sits in her heart, that soul of nature. And then she says, advance, O death, beyond this phantom beauty of this world, for of its citizens I am not one. It's interesting. She's telling God, go beyond these appearances of marred, disfigured love. I am not arguing for this. I am identified with that original, pure love. I cherish God the fire, not God the dream.
That is it only nature or is it Savitri herself? Because in the original Savitri Satyavan, when they meet, they have a psychic contact and they realize each other's souls. Is it only nature or is it Savitri as a
Well,
divine also chooses the soul, Satyavan?
yeah, I don't think it's maybe just nature. I mean, but I'm emphasizing that relation because we're kind of talking at a deeper symbolic level between the soul and nature. But she is also a being here in love with Satyavan, and that's another level of the story and of what she's speaking. Oh.
Because Savitri is not speaking these lines. Or is Savitri identified with nature, knowing that she was present from the beginning as the divine consciousness from the beginning, working through and through the century and guiding the soul of man and loving him in this form.
Right. So you're speaking of, is it just the lower nature, or is it also the higher nature, the Shakti, which is conscious? conscious nature. Yeah, I think it's that. Ultimately, she's speaking more from that point of view. Because
She's also being ironic. She's talking to the dead, which is saying, my world is the world. She's saying, no, that world. And if there's a better, greater God than my Satyavan, let him be Satyavan. She's taunting death. This is in the argument story. So I think it's partly that, but also, as you say, there's an invisible.
yeah, she may be also taunting him and arguing with him. But Death here then replies to Savitri's arguments. And he's again kind of bringing in the old argument that these are just hallucinations of thy thought, and that you're kind of a prisoner of your own fantasies, being hailed by a spiritual cord as if pulled by a cord of your own imaginations, of thy own sensuous will, the ardent slave, that thou sendest eagle poised to meet the sun, words winged with the red splendor of thy heart. And then he argues, but knowledge dwells not in the passionate heart. This passion for love and oneness that you have for Satyavan, these are not of the highest truth. This is not the highest knowledge. Knowledge is just oneness, if anything, whether the oneness of the divine or the oneness of the inconscient existence. But all these aspirations of love, these things fall back unheard from wisdom's throne. Sometimes he takes this argument of the Vedantist who just sees the oneness of the divine and all the rest as illusion. And then of the ideals that she's espousing here, of that this world is a play of the divine love, and that eventually the divine will put off these disguises of this diminished forms of love. And he's saying, vain is thy longing to build heaven on earth. Mind, child of matter, in the womb of life, to higher levels persuades his parents' steps. Inapt, they follow ill the daring guide. So mind aspires beyond with its bright imaginations, but it too is only an offspring of matter. And matter and life follow ill the mind's lead into the oneness of the divine. They do not follow. You can't build these kind of imaginations here on earth. All in the end will dissolve into the dust of matter. Mind, a glorious traveler in the sky, walks lamely on the earth. with footsteps slow. Hardly he can mold the life's rebellious stuff. Hardly can he hold the galloping hooves of sense. His thoughts look straight into the very heavens. They draw their gold from a celestial mind. And then we can add, but his acts work painfully a common ore. When he tries to put those ideals into form here on earth, he has to deal with the common ore of matter and life. And it's very difficult to do. Impossible, he says.
It's the old heaven on earth problem, you know, the utopian idea. In the materialist, in so much of culture, this is what Auroville has overturned in the life of mind. So it's wonderful how we can use to articulate those arguments that are very common.
Right.
That most people still hold, and the misunderstandings of what the spirit is and what it's all about.
And at the same time, I think, she's saying, there are sad strains of truth in what he says, because we see how difficult it is to do. And he says, in like the human cycle, to create, it's one thing even to individually realize the divine, but to do that as a collective, a very difficult work. So let's continue. One more.
All thy high dreams were made by matter's mind, to solace its dull work in matter's jail, its only house where it alone seems true, a solid image of reality, carved out of beings to prop the works of time. Matters on the firm earth sit strong and sure. It is the firstborn of created things. It stands the last when mind and life are slain. And if it ended, all would cease to be. All else is only its outcome or its phase. Thy soul is a brief flower by the gardener mind, created in thy matter's terrain plot. It perishes with the plant on which it grows, for from earth's sap it draws its heavenly hue. Thy thoughts are gleam that pass on matter's verge. Thy life's a lapsing wave on matter's sea, a careful steward of truth's limited means, treasuring her founded facts from the squandering poor. It thither's mind to the trained post of sense, to a leaden grey routine, claims life's caprice, and tries all creatures with the cord of laws. A vessel of transmuting alchemies, a glue that sticks together mind and life. If matter fails, all crumbling cracks and falls. All upon matter stands as on a rock.
Thank you. Let's pause. It's a pretty straightforward argument he's making here, just that matter is the original power, that all here built, or all life and mind are outcomes of matter, and into matter will dissolve. And thy thoughts, thy imaginations, thy ideals, all of these things are arising out of matter and will fall back. They're ephemeral things. Nothing lasts. And further, that material basis is also limiting all of these efforts of life and mind. It ties them down. They cannot reach up to the divine. Let's, can we go, Brian? All by death's mercy, about 10 lines.
All upon matters stands as on a rock.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yet this security and guarantor, pressed for credentials, an impositor proves, a cheat of substance where no substance is, an appearance and a symbol and a note. Its forms have no original right to birth. Its aspect of a fixed stability is the cover of a captive motion's swirl. An order of the steps of energy's dance, whose footmarks leave forever the same signs, a concrete face of unsubstantial time, a trickle dotting the emptiness of space, a stable seeming movement without change, yet change arrives and the last change to death. What seemed most real once is nihil's show. Its figures are snares that trap, imprison the senses. The beginningless void was its artificer. Nothing is there but aspects, limed by chance, and seeming shapes of seeming energy.
Thank you.
Does he talk here about matter or about mind?
He's talking about matter. And I think he's giving us a view of the new physics. I mean, this is the more modern view of what matter consists of, which was just being discovered, I think, in his time. So its aspect of a fixed stability is the cover of a captive motion swirl, an order of the steps of energy's dance, whose footmarks leave forever the same signs. A concrete face of unsubstantial time, a trickle dotting the emptiness of space, a stable seeming movement without change. Yet change arrives, and the last change is death. And then further down, well, I'll just read the rest. What seemed most real once is nihil show. Its figures are snares that trap and prison the sense. The beginningless void was its artificer. Nothing is there but aspects limned by chance, outlined by chance. And that chance, I think, is fundamental to the quantum theory and seeming shapes of seeming energy. So I'm not sure if I follow, but you're speaking of kind of in hierarchy of energy. Yeah. Which is not same. There will be some boundaries. Right. There are boundaries.
This thing about chance, I mean, the earlier materialists were into chance, but of course the physics is beyond that. Einstein said, God's not making dice for reality. So we're in another phase now, which is also reflected in Death's argument, but it's also reflected in the way Auroville unfolds the meaning of love.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Einstein said that, but he's arguing against some other physicists, right? But I don't know that his point of view is proven. He was kind of saying, I don't buy this quantum physics stuff, because what they were finding was that these wave particles, you could never fix the particle in a particular place. You could only kind of guess approximately where it would be. So there's always this play of... But isn't it the same now? I don't know. Oh, okay. But it just becomes more complicated. I don't think it's...
They still don't accept that it's a conscious energy.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, they don't follow Deepak's theory or our Pondicherry fellow. Yeah, this whole idea, I mean, it's still uncertain. These
the uncertainty principle is true also.
Yeah.
So that's why we have to take a little step beyond the mental understanding of these things into another level of understanding.
What they keep doing is finding new, smaller particles, more basic particles, Yeah, but far beyond quarks, I think. I have a physicist nephew who's kind of studying those things, those smallest parts. Yeah, well, that's his kind of summary statement, I think, that he claims, I'm the end, and that it's all, in the end, it's a void. He's arguing an emptiness, a nothingness. I don't know that that's the view of physics.
It's your own courage to face the nothingness, but it's all. So then they back it up with some of this, what I would call pseudoscience, which is also not true. That's why Krishna was so important, because he is the evolutionary thing for the mental consciousness, which is truth consciousness, and truth consciousness includes matter. Matter is not something different. Matter is the energy, one energy, and the energy is love. So that makes it very simplistic, but that's the way it is.
Too bad we didn't record that. But, wonderful statement. Ultimately, it's love, that fundamental particle. Okay, we stop for today.
Then peals a calming soul voice. This is the word from which thy burnings came.
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.